I experienced something pretty recently and I felt like it was worth sharing. So the conversation revolves around the idea of, can men and women be friends? Let me know what you think. Can men and women be friends? Recently, I kind of encountered some situations that made me evaluate my stance on this situation, and I realized that I've changed quite a bit. I had an opinion before, and as I've matured, I've really changed my opinion. I think part of it is growing up and realizing that not everybody thinks like you, not everyone functions like you, your same moral code, and realizing you can't expect certain things from certain people, and so sometimes you just gotta move accordingly. The way I progressed with this idea was I invited one of my exes out to lunch. Almost all of my exes and I are still friends. I don't have any problems with them. I've never really cheated on an ex or been cheated on by an ex. I've never like grossly disrespected an ex or I feel like I've been disrespected a couple times, but either way, there's never been anything that I would say is severe enough that we can't be friends afterwards. Even if we realize, hey, we're not compatible, we should be able to be friends. And so I think I've always spent time with my exes. Like we go out to lunch, we might catch a movie, just if they're on my mind. I'll call them up every now and then. We just talk, have, healthy conversations. And so I was in this side of town. Whenever I'm on this side of town by my ex's job, and I was gonna go to a restaurant that we used to go to, I was like, oh, let me invite her. So I call her up and I invite her out. And she was like, I can't go to lunch with you. And I was like, what? Like, well, why? And she explains, well, my man at this point, he doesn't really believe in men and women being friends, and I feel like it would disrespect him because he doesn't like the idea of that, so I can't be at this restaurant with. And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand, and I respect that. And I originally, it's so funny because that particular ex, one of the biggest problems that we had was that she didn't like that I had female friends, and I had a female friend that I had been friends with for about 19 years at this point. We had messed around at one point. When we were really, really, really young, but it had been like literally 15 years of like zero sexual contact of any kind. And so we had just maintained our friendship all of this time. And my ex did not like it. She was just like, nope, I think she likes you. I think she wants to be with you. And I don't want you to be friends with her. And I'm like, why don't we all hang out together? I'm not going to be somewhere with her by ourselves. I'm not going to whatever, but I don't feel like I should cut off this friend of 19 years. She was not interested in meeting this friend. And there was a bunch of insecurity and stuff around there that eventually kind of drove us apart. It's honestly that. Not that specific friendship, but just the insecurity part. And at the time I felt very clearly that men and women should be able to be friends. Like that should be a thing. And I had a lot of friends. I just gotta be transparent. I did have a tendency to sleep with some of my female friends. That was a thing. But I'm also, that if I'm not in a relationship, then maybe I might be more sexually available. But in a relationship, I'm not doing anything like that. But I get it. People, I get where this comes from. So as my friend was explaining to me that she didn't want to go to lunch because she wanted to respect her boyfriend, she was also explaining to me that she really didn't like it because she had good friends, me being one of them. And she was like, yeah, it really kind of sucks for me that he feels that way, because now I'm going to lose some of my friends and I won't, I actually want to be friends with you. I think we're good friends and so on and so forth. It was such a crazy thing to hear her say that, because when I was the one that had the opposite sex friend, she was not about it at all. But I think maybe that situation kind of changed her as well. I think the reason why I took it so personal was because I'm not a cheater. I am a very, very honest person. I've never, the thought of cheating doesn't even enter my mind. I just don't even see a point to it. I feel like if I'm not able to be sexually gratified in my relationship, then I shouldn't be in that relationship, unless it's something that I'm not communicating, right? Like I should be able to communicate to the person that I'm with, hey, this is what I want, if this ain't working, or so on and so forth. And because of that, then we progress, right? And then the relationship continues. If I'm not communicating that, how is it, if I don't communicate that I'm not being that my needs aren't being met, then that's my fault, right? If I do communicate and the person isn't willing, then we're just not compatible and this person is selfish. I shouldn't be with that person in the first place. If I communicate and that person isn't able, then I have to start making an evaluation, right? Is this relationship worth more than whatever this specific need that I feel isn't being met? How do we work, right? Well, in this specific case, she couldn't believe that. And I understand she had a history of a bunch of people had cheated on her and stuff, all of her previous relationships, to be honest. And she'd always trusted and they were always foul. And so because of that, she just couldn't. And it's I always believe that I should not bear the sins of another. I should not. I am me. And I expect to be treated like an individual. It's of utmost importance to me. So I'm not going to endure an insecurity that was caused by another person that's irrevocable, and now I'm going to be constrained because of said insecurity. I won't do that. So relationship ended, etc., etc., etc. But as she was telling me this, and she was talking about two of her friends that she was now losing, which it really sucked because her man felt this way and she disagreed with him, but she's not going, she in order to respect the relationship, she's gonna do what she got to do. And I was like, okay, one, I respect her so much for respecting the relationship, because some people would just be like, well, I disagree, so I'm just gonna go ahead. It won't hurt, you know what I mean? Do something behind his back and then just, defy trust and all that nonsense. And I don't want to be part of that. But as she was saying that, I said I had to explain to her that I now agree with her to a large degree. I do think men and women can be. This change happened because I went and hung out with the one that got away. There's a person that I had a thing for a long time. It just didn't work out. We were young, things didn't happen, etc. But she got married and it hurt. She got married. We weren't together or anything. We hadn't been together. We would talk off and on. It was just like, okay, so that's that. And it's a regret of mine. It is a regret, being honest. But I respect marriage and I respect their relationship. And so it was like, okay, well, that's that, And so we went hiking and I made sure that other people were there because this used to be a good friend of mine. So I was like, we're still friends. And so I was like, I'll make sure other people are there so nothing untoward happens, or it doesn't even have the appearance that anything crazy is happening. And we went, and as we were talking, and just the hike was going on, I had to constantly check myself. I had to constantly remind myself, hey, wait, don't take the conversation in this direction. This is a married person. Respect the relationship. I met her husband. There's no way. And I realized that by me constantly checking myself, there were feelings there, right? And I started realizing that it took an insane amount of discipline and an insane respect for marriage that made me say, okay, I won't cross this line. Because you can argue yourself into anything. You can talk yourself into, well, I would treat her better. I deserve her better. But you make excuses, lie to yourself. We're not doing anything. This is harmless, and so on and so forth. And constantly encroaching until finally you crossed the line. And I didn't want to do any of those things. And I was constantly introspecting and realizing how much I kept checking myself to make sure, like, hey, nope, don't say that. Nope, you can't flirt in that way. Nope. And so I don't feel I did anything wrong there. But I realized I don't expect other people to do that. I'm particularly ascetic, right? I live my life in a very ascetic way. I've just been raised like pretty hyper religious. And so from a very young age, I've always had this mentality of like what right and wrong is. And I've really tried to avoid violating my integrity in any way. And so I realized I'm willing to do that. I'm capable of doing that. I don't think most people are. That interaction is why I came to the realization, no, I don't trust other people. I barely trust myself in that way. And I've never ever like slept with a married person or like, cheated, or I don't believe in that kind of stuff. I don't live in that kind of way. And I realized how difficult it was. And then I remember there was an inner turmoil in my feelings of just, man, this is a person that I like this person as a person. And sometimes you want to express that. And I just started realizing like, this is an inner turmoil caused by my emotions. And I don't think most people are either in tune enough with themselves or have enough core strength to be able to say, I'm going to deny myself this thing that I really, really want. I think it takes God. I think it takes some sort of belief in something greater than yourself to be able to fight those type of thoughts. Now, I don't believe in men and women being friends if you're in a relationship. I think you can be friends with somebody. There's a couple of cases where it can work. If you're in a situation where one person finds one of the other people unbelievably unattractive, they can be friends. Aside from that, I don't think it's real. And even in those cases, I've had friends that I didn't think were particularly attractive and so on and so forth. But then the thought still crept in at one point, like, maybe it wouldn't be awful. It's just the way I think brains work. And I don't think it's a good thing. So that's my stance. Some people are going to disagree and say, nah, men and women are capable of being friends. And I think that you should be able to, have healthy boundaries and healthy respect for your relationship. And if you don't respect your relationship, like if you don't trust your partner to be with somebody, to be around someone else, then you probably just don't trust them and you shouldn't be in a relationship and all those things. And maybe you might have that stance. And if you have those stance, there are ways to make it work, right? I think there's the idea of, well, then you just should never, ever, ever be alone with that person. You have to make sure that you're constantly respecting boundaries. In other words, emotional boundaries. You can never confide in that person about issues that you're going through in your relationship. if they're of the opposite sex. If you're talking to another woman about the problems that your woman is doing, I promise you, you're opening up a door that you don't. I think human beings are competitive, and I think it sparks something that says, I think I can do better than she is, etc., etc., etc. I had another friend that I recently spoke to, and he was explaining to me about how he had been cheated on. In his relationship, in his new relationship, he still had this insecurity, and he realized, oh man, I'm gonna have to deal with this, because he knew it was there. And one day he spoke up and spoke to the person and told them how he was feeling. They told him, I would never ever do that to you out of respect for you, but not just out of respect for you, but because of the vows I made before God. That was like healing. The insecurity disappeared. Yeah, that it was enough for him to be able to really feel confident in his wife. And I think hearing that, it was a beautiful thing, because I realized there is healing for people who have been cheated on. If you're moving forward with the hurt of a previous relationship, then you're basically you're punishing your new partner because of your previous partner. I can't feel like that's right. I think there's always room for boundaries, but if boundaries are created by lack of trust, then in reality, it's not a boundary, it's just an insecurity manifesting itself, and I don't respect that. Either way, I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think. The purpose of this channel is to educate and to inform, and occasionally to entertain. I don't know if this is necessarily educational or informative or even entertaining, but you let me know. Would you like to see more content like social issues or social commentary and personal relationships and things like that? Sound off in the comments.